Yes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chinguzi's WiSTEM Career Panel and Workshop. Myself and Koinur are the directors of networking in Chinguzi's WiSTEM chapter. Today, we'll be hosting this career panel and workshop. And just a heads up, this event will be recorded. We have one panelist here with us, Shivanna Bisnath, who will be leading the first 30 minutes for the panel. Next, we have a Chinguzi student, Dana, sorry, and who will be leading the workshop as part of this event. We are so excited to have you here with us. And to start off, we'll begin off with our land acknowledgement. Um, we would like to acknowledge that we're here on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas Credit First Nations. Now to introduce our amazing panelists, we first have Ms. Shivanna Bisnath.
Okay, so Shivanna is a cognitive thinker with a keen eye, a creative mind, and a love for graphic design. She graduated from the University of Toronto in 2019 and specializes in digital enterprise management. Currently, she is working as an account executive for a Toronto-based creative agency, managing planning and execution of print and digital assets with internal teams and agency partners. She is also a freelancer. With a love for design and appreciation for practical solutions, Shivanna started her own company in early 2021. Her experience and expertise span from managing and developing larger scale real estate and financial marketing campaigns to smaller projects aimed at making life easier. While working full-time, Shivanna continues to collaborate with boutique studios and small businesses to help manage and create memorable brand experiences. She has recently completed a suite of marketing material for her real estate development in Burlington, Ontario. Currently, she is working with ticketing partners across Canada to create digital banners and social assets for various events. So let's move on to the first question.
Okay, so our first question for you, what is your current career and why did you choose to work in your field?
All right, well, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for attending this panel and workshop. It's exciting and to speak to these Chinguzi students, as myself was a Chinguzi student in 2011 to 2015. So I currently work as an account executive for a Toronto-based agency. So as an account executive, I communicate with clients and gather information about the project scope, budget, timeline, and communicate them to our studio and creative team. So just to give you an insight about my position, so I manage the client American Express, one of the largest financial banks in North America. So specifically with American Express, I deal with their entertainment sector. So American Express offers card members front of the line access to pre-sale tickets and reserve tickets to live events, concerts, Broadway shows, musicals, comedies, etc. So my job is to work with ticketing partners across Canada. So we're dealing with Ticketmaster, Live Nation, Universe, Commodore Ballroom in Vancouver to manage the ticket sales and pre-sales for each week that goes on. So I have to get the proposals approved. I have to understand what assets we are building for each artist that comes in. So for instance, if Drake is doing a show, I would understand what the client wants. So if Drake wants digital banners, we would build digital banners for him or social assets, etc. But taking a step back. So as mentioned before, I currently work as an account executive. And why did I choose this career path? It all started back in my high school days at Chinguzi, where I knew I had a love for arts and crafts, but I didn't know how to implement it throughout my post-secondary and career in the future. And that's where I discovered graphic design with Miss Wilson's class.
Wow, that's amazing, actually. I hope that a lot of people here kind of like take that in and, you know, a lot of interesting careers can be formed through just high school experiences that you just never thought would even happen. So we'll move on to our next question. So what are some of the biggest challenges you faced as a woman in STEM and how did you overcome them?
So as a woman in STEM, there were basically well, there are a lot of challenges, but the main two challenges I faced is number one, confidence and intimidation in the workplace. So I've always felt like I never belonged or that I never deserved the position or the salary I'm getting. And it's very difficult to overcome this feeling, and especially with a workplace that is male dominated or a field that is male dominated. But it's important to remind yourself and to acknowledge that you are doing the right thing and you are doing the best you can in your position, and to never doubt yourself. One thing I do recommend is that if you're feeling overwhelmed, is to break down your task. It's important to create a work back schedule or to have a calendar of some sort, so you can visually see what task you have to tackle for each day to come. So like just to give you a quick example, one of the biggest projects I have right now in my job is to create a creative audit. So this is to basically showcase all the creative assets we have live across Canada, whether they're digital and print. So it's a large task because we deal with various ticket partners across Canada. So to help me be less intimidated with this task is I visually broke it down by using sticky notes. And using that method helped me visually see what needed to be done and for when, and what is the best way to tackle this and to meet my project deadline. Another big challenge I faced as a woman in STEM is the lack of transparency. It's difficult to determine what's fair, whether it's post-secondary or even the workplace, and to understand your worth as a woman. And without transparency, you are less likely to demand a fair price or even to demand what you're actually truly worth. So it's important to understand the environment around you and to ask many questions. Ask as many people as you can to find out as much information as you can. And without a lack of transparency is caused because people are too afraid to ask. And questions are important at the end of the day. Just to give you a brief experience I've had recently is when I started this job with the Toronto agency, I actually shifted over from a 2-year full-time position as an account coordinator with an accounting firm in Mississauga, and started off virtually with this company because, COVID and everything. So with the layer of working virtually, plus the lack of transparency and meeting these people face to face, it caused a lot of intimidation. Going back to my first point, it's that I really didn't know where I stand. I know what I'm worth, I know what I can do, but it's hard to communicate that when you don't have that physical relationship. So that's where the transparency comes. So it's important to communicate with everyone and as much as you can. So even if you don't even work with a colleague, for instance, it's talk to them, ask them how their day was, or even find out what they do for fun on the weekend. Or even ask questions about their experience in the workplace and how they feel about the company culture and et cetera. Because the more you learn is the more that helps you grow at the end of the day.
Yes, it's quite difficult for women in STEM, and it's very inspiring how you overcame these challenges, and it gives younger generations motivation to keep working hard. So thank you for that. So your next question is, if you could give any piece of advice to your high school self, what would it be?
So if I can give any piece of advice to myself in high school, is putting thought into what you're passionate about is very important to identify the right career path. So as I mentioned earlier, is that I knew I had a love for the arts and culture. Ever since growing up, I was always drawing, doodling, painting, making friendship bracelets. But I never thought of it as a career path down the line. But then, of course, when it came to high school, I took the arts class and I took communications. I took photography with Miss Wilson. but I never explored it as something I wanted to do. But then I've learned in high school that I also had a passion for business. I remember I took an international business course, and that's where my eyes really opened up to the business world. And I knew I wanted to pursue something in that. But then again, at the back of my head, I knew I was passionate about arts and crafts or arts and culture. So going back to my advice, put thought into what you're passionate about and explore. Don't set yourself to one thing. Take risk. Even if you don't even think that you would like it, doesn't hurt to try it, right? Also, another piece of advice is to learn to expand your personal boundaries, because in your post-secondary and in the workforce, you would be pulled in multiple directions. And I do admit there are times where, like nowadays, during the work day, I would be like, damn, I miss high school. I miss all the free time I had. Because it's a big shift, and you'll understand that as you shift over from high school to post-secondary to the workforce, you're getting pulled in multiple directions by various people, whether it's your colleagues, your friends and family, your loved ones. So it's very important to understand what boundaries you're placing for yourself, and to also meet the needs of yourself, but also to happily meet the needs of everyone else around you. So it goes back to the concept of creating that work-life balance. A third piece of advice I would give to my high school self is to improve communication. Use every opportunity you get in high school to practice your communication skills. Like, I must admit, in high school, I was afraid to give presentations. I would be that person typing out my presentation the night before and practicing it word for word and making sure that I knew exactly and had it memorized for the next day, ready to present. But throughout my post-secondary and workplace experience, you couldn't do that. You had to learn how to talk on the fly, whether it was dealing with clients in the workplace, or even in post-secondary and giving elevator pitches. So take every chance you get in high school, whether it's written or oral communication. Speak up in class with every opportunity that's given, and seek out chances to give out oral presentations in front of your peers, whether it's actually like, a history presentation or just pitching something for fun, or even any club opportunities as well. That's very helpful. So seize every opportunity you have to become a better communicator.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, especially because a lot of people are a bit more shy due to COVID and a lot of other things. And actually, you know what? Speaking of COVID, I would like to ask, because of COVID, how has your relationship with your job and kind of like you as a woman in STEM, how has that been affected by COVID?
Oh, trust me, it's been hard for the last 2 years dealing with COVID and working virtually and being a woman in STEM, because my workplace is male dominated. But with COVID and working virtually, like, I've actually never been to this Toronto office, maybe once, but other than that, everything's been online. So it's very hard developing the relationship with a lot of people in the office, because at the end of the day, like, you get the job done, but you need to know who you're working with, right? You can't just be bossing someone around through email or through text or through Microsoft Teams and telling them what to do, especially in my role as an account executive. It's a lot of communicating to our designers that, hey, I need this done by X date. This is your turnaround time. Please get it to me. There's more than that. You need to understand who you're working with and to develop that relationship that goes beyond just the workplace, essentially. But yeah, COVID has been very difficult. did place a damper on my experience as a woman in STEM. And going back to the whole communication thing, like seize the moment at every moment you can. Like when I started off in this position as account executive dealing with front of the line for American Express, I asked all the questions I can, no matter how small they are or how silly they can seem. It's very important because it helps you grow at the end of the day. And it also shows the people around you that, hey, you're willing to try and she knows what she's doing.
Thank you. COVID has affected us all in some way or another. And I really like the line you just said, that seize the moment, because we don't know. The future is really uncertain, especially during these times. So I really like that. Thank you. So your next question, were there any service opportunities or internships that allowed you to develop experience as a high schooler or early college student?
Unfortunately, no. So I did not have any service opportunities or internships. Most of my experience came from freelancing. So I developed, so basically I would start off freelancing for, family and friends, creating logos, creating business cards, posters here and there. And then through word of mouth, then I would gain more work through family of family or cousins of my mom's sister side, whatever, down the line. But it'll basically create a snowball effect where I was in a position where I can create a brand for myself. And for those of you who've seen the social post on the Instagram, Ching's Women in STEM Instagram's account, you see that little icon that goes like this. That's actually something I created in grade 12 in Miss Wilson's class. So I was able to utilize that icon to develop a brand for myself from doing all this freelancing. So ever since then, that's how I started to get into, to gain more experience by working with friends and family. And also thankful for Miss Wilson's class. She was great help.
You're a sweetie. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. There's Miss Wilson.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
I must admit, if it wasn't for Miss Wilson has made a great impact on my life. She was the one who taught me a lot about graphic design and communication and helped me discover that, hey, especially in grade 12, where I didn't know how to combine my passion for graphic design and business. Mm-hmm. And a lot of her projects were doing that, such as I remember there was this one project where we had to create a mobile app. So behind the app, you had to develop a whole project scope. What's this app about? Who's your target audience, et cetera, et cetera. So if it wasn't for Miss Wilson's grade 12 and grade 11 communication classes, I wouldn't have discovered my passion and my career path.
Yeah. Okay, so I think at this point, we'll move on to a final question, and then we'll open it up to a audience-wide Q&A. So for the final question is, if there's one thing that you would want our high school audience to take away from this panel, what would it be? Like anything at all?
What comes after high school isn't as scary as it seems. You'll be fine. We all know, and I know we've all been there. Well, I've been there. There's that stress of starting all over again, going into post-secondary, being the baby of post-secondary school, the crushing pressure of college and university tuition and student loan, and the terror of taking charge of your own life. Trust me, when I started off university, I was scared. I was scared because I was stepping into a new city. By the way, I went to U of T and I went to the Mississauga campus. Never been to Mississauga before. Been in Brampton my whole life. Brampton is all I've known up to high school. And well, grade 12 of high school, but set aside. Yeah, despite everything that seems scary, you're going to be perfectly fine. You're going to get the grasp of it as soon as you enter post-secondary. So accept the challenge, take challenging classes in post-secondary school, whether it might be politics or women and gender studies. Like I took ideologies for fun, and I actually discovered that I like learning about ideologies, and I actually read more into it and joined clubs in post-secondary discussing ideological ideas of the past. But yeah, so take challenging classes and participate in clubs and do the activities you never thought of doing. Challenge yourself and discover your passions. Do not stick to one thing only. And that also will help you communicate more. That's seizing the moment. Every chance you get, communicate. Also to build your workplace skills. So really get in the habit of managing your own time and meeting your due dates, because things are gonna seem like they're gonna pile up quickly. However, it all comes down to just managing your time correctly at the end of the day. And even if you are not the type of person who likes to create a timeline or a schedule for themselves, it's a good habit to start developing, because as life starts, as you start to grow throughout post-secondary and start getting into the workforce, you'll, as I mentioned before, be pulled in multiple directions. So yeah, so continuously motivate yourself and encourage yourself as the years go by. There will be times where you will feel down because, you know, other people are doing other things or getting jobs right after university, but no matter what, everyone's going to be fine, because at the end of the day, we all grow at different rates and we all have our own skill set and experiences that help us along the way. So don't be scared of anything. And 100% communicate.
Thank you very much. This is very helpful to me, and I'm sure it's very helpful to the audience as well. So thank you for sharing this great advice, and I'm certain this will help our female audience in the future for sure. So, Koiner, is there anything you would like to add before we move on?
I would just like to see if anyone in the audience had any questions for Shivanna. If you can just unmute your mic, say something, you know, even if Miss Wilson wants to say something.
Yeah, and guys, if you feel free to find me on LinkedIn, if you have any other questions prior to this workshop, feel free to just shoot me a message there.
I think for myself, Mrs. Wilson here, I cannot express how proud I have been of Shivanna and watching her grow. And she never misses a moment to come back and visit and participate in open houses. In fact, she usually runs my booth at open house. And parents love hearing from the students versus the teacher. And I encourage that all the time. The more you can get students out there talking to other students and parents, the better you guys will feel about your high school experience.
Fun fact, when I actually landed my first job out of university, Miss Wilson was the second person I called. The first person was my mom.
We keep in touch and it's been wonderful. I was over the moon when I heard that she had landed her job right out of school. So proud. I'm her second mom.
Does anyone have any other questions? Feel free to write it in the chat or unmute your mic.
Okay, since no one's asking the question, I might as well ask the question. Actually, I'm actually curious about, you said you went to American Express, and usually I've heard from like other people that have an art background, usually when they do interviews, it's like a bit different, because when you present your portfolio, they ask a lot of like design questions about like, why did you choose this color? Or like, why did you round the corners of like a box or something like that? And in your experience, what was that like? And like any nerves, like what did you feel like for the first time going to this? Like, how did you feel? And what was the best way to approach this interview? Like for someone that like is going into the workforce and like has no clue and just has their portfolio, what should they do about it?
So what I recommend is that, of course, when you're designing with a purpose, right? So always keep in the back of your head why you're designing this, because at the end of the day, you're the one who is representing your artwork and no one else will tell you otherwise. So yes, maybe the client will have critiques here and there, but then again, you as a designer and the artist have the right to push back on feedback, because you are the one who created it and you know why you rounded that corner, or you used this font for a specific reason, or why you placed this box there. So always be confident in when you present, and 100%, if you have a reason behind everything you do, communicate it as much as you want to your client, and be open at the end of the day. If they don't like something, make a recommendation that you're willing to change.
Thank you very much. Um, so this concludes the end of the panel session. Thank you very much, Shivanna, for all the information you've shared and the advice you've given to all of us. And I'm certain this is helpful to each and everyone here today. Thank you very much once again. So now we'll move on to the workshop part of this event. So Dana, take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Dania. I'm a member of the graphic design team at WiSTEM, and I'm just going to show you a bit of my portfolio and some tips that I've learned over my high school graphic design experience. So basically what I'll be doing is that, just to let you know, I'm not looking around anywhere. It's just I have a monitor and then my camera's over here. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm not staring at anywhere else. But anyways, so I'm going to be presenting a tutorial on how to create a creative and visually appealing infographic or poster. And I know a lot of you are starting your second semester in high school. So basically, if you ever need to create a poster or an infographic for a research topic, or really just anything, you can put these tips or tricks to use. And honestly, these tips and tricks can be used for Google Slides presentations, advertisements, and just really anything in general. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. I don't have access to that right now, so actually, would it be record on this computer?
You would like access to share your screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Not sure.
Who was the host? Who started the meeting?
It was me.
You should have capabilities to give her share screen privileges.
Okay. It's not giving me an option, so I'll just make you the host for now. Let me know if it works.
Yep, it worked. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen over here. Let's share this. Can you guys all see it? Okay. So I'm going to first of all show you a bit of my posts that I made for WiSTEM, especially because I think WiSTEM was one of the first graphic design clubs I've joined. So let me just show you a few posts. So this post is very special because this was the first post I made for WiSTEM. And you can see it has a ton of imperfections, but it was still my first post. You can see like there's all this blank space. It kind of looks empty. And I was looking back at it the other night and it wasn't the best, but like as you keep on going through the slides, you look at all of these little imperfections and you realize that, wow, I've grown so much. So here's the post. Like looking at it now, I realized that, oh, this should have been white, like this line right here. It would have looked so much better white. And so just these little things. And yeah, I don't know. I just realized. And here's another post. So this post is a post that wasn't posted. I had to make 2 posts for a takeover. And this was the post that wasn't chosen, but I still really like it. It's very like poppy, very bubbly, very fun, very colorful. And now that I think about it, there's a ton of stuff going on here. And over here, I like this slide a lot. It looks neat. It looks very neat.
It's actually very colorful though.
Yeah.
As I think like a lot of times with graphic design, the colors like really matter. I heard like from like some people, it's like psychology. If you put red, quite intimidating to see red.
Exactly.
Am I right, Miss Wilson? I haven't taken graphic design so long. Is that right? If my information is right, is
Absolutely.
red like intimidating? Yeah, red's kind of intimidating.
Color theory is huge. Color evokes all sorts of emotions and feelings and stuff, and how you direct somebody through your work. You can do it with color, you can do it with a whole bunch of different things, but color is really important.
Especially, I think one of my friends, they have an older sibling that went to art field as well. One of the questions was that they basically created this app where it's kind of like tea customization, and the colors are really important because with tea, the whole purpose was mental health and how like documenting your journal or like while you're sipping tea, like how you're feeling today. All those warm tones of colors are really like inviting. And I think like that's pretty important when you're presenting a portfolio, especially like when you're just, I know a lot of students right now, they're making their portfolio for for university as well. I know, Dania, you're also doing your portfolio too. So I think color is really nice, but do you have, actually, no, I want to ask you directly, Dania, do you know any websites or inspiration where you can find like color theory if like someone's like a beginner at it?
I actually do. And it's this website right here. I have it open here, so I was going to show it later, but I can show you right now. Canva has this color palette section to it, and it gives you a bunch of colors that go really well together. So you can just look over here. They give you, and so let's say I open this one, rosettes and cream. They give you the color hex code right here, and you can just put it into a blank Canva poster and use it. So it's really neat. I use it a lot, and it's a very fun and very helpful website too.
Yeah, I've also like tried to use gradients before. I took a long time for graphic design, but gradients are actually helpful. I've used gradients for softwares like Photoshop. I know a lot of times with graphic design, initially I thought that you had to have like Photoshop and like Illustrator and all these like cool like softwares I just did not know about. And I think opening Photoshop, it's quite intimidating to see. Am I right, Miss Wilson? Because there's like a huge panel of buttons right there. You just don't know where to start. And it's just, for someone that's like wanting to go into graphic design, like try graphic design, it can be like a little intimidating. So then you try to drift away from it. But Canva, it's almost as if like it should be like removed, that you can create something good with like Canva. Like it doesn't have to be in Photoshop. It can be in Canva or something like simple as that. It just really matters about the colors and how you present your work.
Yeah, and the thing about Canva is it's the flavor of the month. So it will come and go quickly. Photoshop will always be there, but so are all the other programs in CC. The thing I'm not going to say dislike, but the thing about Canva is it's Canva and it looks like Canva. You recognize it right away. You're like, oh, they're using Canva. because it has a look and feel, and all the graphics are very similar looking. The people are very similar. So it's great as a starter. I have to say that it's great as a starting point. What I would like people to do is take what they've learned from using Canva and then bring it into more high-end stuff.
Actually, I have a question. Do you think design has changed a lot? I know like you've been designing for many years now, and I feel like design, how we look at poster, it changes as like people's views kind of change. I feel like nowadays when I look at posters, a lot of posters I see are like directed towards like mental health more, and they kind of have more, I guess not really bright colors. They kind of colors like what Dania's showing right now, like very subtle colors, like they're not really harsh on you, and like they're kind of inviting you. So do you think like the whole evolution of design?
I think it's the COVID environment. People want to feel rested. They don't want to see bright flashing color. They want to be relaxed, and they are leaning towards these kind of looks because of it. Like I said, it's the flavor of the time, right? The psychedelic 60s, the whatever 70s, the 80s, they all have their looks, and it's totally geared towards environmental and political influence, right?
Yeah. 100%. Sometimes I look at blue, I'm like, oh, it's conservative again. No, this comes to my mind.
All right. But those were a few posts that I wanted to show you. I also wanted to show you one more thing. It's an infographic that I made in January. It was for my civic summative, and I wanted to show you the difference between this. So this was the infographic I made, and the difference between that and an infographic I made in grade 9. So this infographic, if it loads, I made it in grade 9 right here. And you can see that it doesn't really look that appealing. It looks dark, it looks dull. The background has nothing to do with the topic. The elements, they just don't work well together.
There's no focal point. There's nothing.
Exactly.
You have to start off with something that attracts your attention first. That's always, you know, the hierarchy thing. So there's no hierarchy to this one. There is to the other one. Your eye goes somewhere first, and then you force people to go where you want them to look. Whereas the other one, they're just looking all over the place.
Exactly.
Shivanna, you remember your infographic?
Of course I do. How can I forget?
But yeah, so I just wanted to show that. And I just wanted to show that even like you can improve a lot in just over a span of the year. And so for the tips that I wanted to share that your design should automatically let the viewer know broadly about what the topic's about. So without looking at the text or the title, the elements in it, the colors in it, the font in it, it should let you know briefly about what the topic's going to be about. So you can see in my infographic, I used red, gold, black, white. I've used poker cards, these coins, and like dice. So you can automatically tell it's going to be something about casinos or gambling. And so that's an effect that I thought really helped me out throughout creating different posts and graphic design elements. I also wanted to say another tip, which is spacing. A lot of people don't use their space effectively, and that was me before as well. There's like when it comes to creating a visually appealing design, it's absolutely necessary to use your space well. And I see like so many people leaving white spaces, blank areas, and overcrowding their design with unnecessary elements. So to keep everything balanced, don't add too many elements, don't add too little. Make sure it's completely balanced. So like if I remove this element right here, it looks completely empty. It's like the whole design changed, right? And if I remove these two right here, sure, there's the text there that fills in the spot, but there's no added color. There's only yellow and white. So the red part to it and just it's almost 3D like the element, and it just gives it a different depth, right? So there's that. And then I think the last tip that I wanted to share was to not be afraid. So don't be afraid to use big and crazy elements, big text, wild colors. All of these things can look nice if you just make sure that the colors that you're putting together are well balanced. And so referring back to the first point, just make sure you're using elements, objects, fonts, and different colors that relate to the topic. And then don't be afraid to look up for inspiration too. Like this, I didn't just pop out from the top of my head. Like I had to look for like, I think an hour from inspiration off Google. I looked off Pinterest. I looked for different color combinations. All that, it takes a while. And then don't be discouraged either. I didn't take any classes for graphic design yet. I haven't had any experience with graphic design at the beginning of the high school. The only thing I did was apply for as many different opportunities as I could. And now I'm part of 5 different organizations as a graphic design member, and some of them I'm even executives, a part of the executive team. So you can do just as well without doing any special classes, though it's very much recommended to take Miss Wilson's class. I haven't taken it yet. I will, though. I'm very excited to take that. And so yeah, so now that we're finished with the tips, I'm just going to do a poster in front of you guys so you can see what my thought process is like. And at the same time, I think I'm gonna ask Miss Wilson some questions if that's okay with her. And yeah. So while I do this, Miss Wilson, I had a question. So about your about design portfolios, when people go into universities, they look a lot at your portfolio and the different aspects of it or your different experiences. What do you think helps a lot when putting together a portfolio?
That would be a good question for Shivanna, but for me, when a student comes to me and says, I'm putting together my portfolio, I don't know what to put into it, right? You should always go with the things that you love, for sure, the things, and don't be afraid to show other people, get their opinions, okay? Even if it's another student, a teacher, right? The more input, the more you grow, okay? Different colleges and universities will look for different things in your portfolios. I guess Asia's not joining us today, right? Too bad, because Asia just finished her portfolios and had applied to a whole bunch of schools, and she had different portfolios for different schools. Okay, it's really important to go into their options or talk to people there as to what you should be putting in your portfolio for each of those, because they're going to be looking for different things. And now that they don't interview, they just look at your portfolio. You have to be very careful to show your process work too. So if you're going in for graphic design, I know one of the big things, and a lot of students don't do this, they just plan on the fly. You need to make a plan. You need to make a storyboard. You need to sort of think of the elements that you want, how you're going to put them together, color schemes. Planning starts at the top, okay? And then go from there. So for each portfolio, plan out what you think they want. Make sure you get feedback from students that have gone there. You can always do that to reach out to some of the students that are going to those schools, reach out to the professors, reach out to other teachers in different subject matters, not just my subject matter, right? get lots of opinions, which Asia did. She sourced it, she brought all her stuff around and showed me multiple versions. And we went through, why do you think that? And I questioned them. Why do you think it is good? Tell me, what is it about this that you think it will give you the idea? There you go. Principles and elements of design is one of the big things too, right? It's just experimenting, which you're doing already, right? Don't be afraid. Yeah. Don't be afraid. Number one, don't be afraid to try things. That's the hurdle. Some people just don't. They stare at this blank page and go, oh, I don't know where to start. Just start. Just start. That's my best advice. Just start, and you'll build more confidence as you go along. And you get to develop an eye as to what looks good.
Right. And I think that's one of the most the hardest things and it took me such a long time to figure that out, because I remember I would just like spend hours on Google trying to find inspiration, but I wouldn't know like where to start. But now I feel like now you just start with whatever you find first. And yeah, so I think that's a very important tip. Another question I had was that what are some tips you feel are crucial to promoting a product?
Are you talking about a specific product?
No, just like any product in general. Like, how do you make it look visually appealing to someone? Like, how do you promote it well?
It depends on what it is. Again, it comes down to knowing your audience. Who is it that you're designing this for, right? So really think about your target audience. I'll throw that out there. Shivanna's probably heard it a million times since she even like graduated. Your target audience is who you want to attract. So you have to get into their mindset. What are they looking at? What's popular with them? What colors, what things, right? And you have to design to your client. You can't design to yourself. You can't design for stuff that you like. You have to think about your target audience and what is going to make them want to buy the product or look at the thing or join the club or whatever it is, go to this workshop. All right. It's all in how you present it. And color is a huge part of that too. Okay. And there's trends. You're always looking at trends. If you come into my classroom, everybody knows I have like a scad of books. Professional books. I am a fiend for books. And some of them are on color theory. Some of them are on type. Type plays a huge part too. I think it's just knowing your target audience and designing towards that target audience. Do your research.
Yep, I'm gonna jump in here and agree with Miss Wilson. It's a lot of research, like a lot of understanding who your client is. Like for instance, with American Express, reading through the brand guidelines and understanding what they want to promote through their brand. American Express does a lot of little cheeky things, such as like, don't live life without it. It's one of their main slogans. And they have a certain color palette they would like to use. So really do in-depth research and you'll eventually understand what you want to achieve with your post. And even if you do have a blank mind when it comes to, okay, how do I start building this? Just start building, like Miss Wilson said earlier. You'll get the hang of things and things will eventually fall in place, and get the opinions of everyone around you. Even like I ask both of my parents right now, whenever I finish an invitation or a banner or social asset of some sort, everyone has their own perspective and has their own opinion to add, which will help you grow.
That sounds really, like I'll make sure to use the advice too, because I feel really interested in graphic design and I'm thinking about taking it in the future as a career, but I'm not sure yet, so we'll see.
Graphic design is something you can keep in your back pocket. The more you know about media and all the forms of media, the more marketable you are to an employer. Just think about that, okay? You can be good at photography, you can be good at programming, you can be good at a whole bunch of things. The more assets you have in your pocket, the better.
Okay.
I actually want to add on that because a lot of times in tech, most of the jobs in tech are just like programming, back end programming, and like tech is like a huge thing now. And what people don't realize is that for things to look appealing in tech, especially in mobile apps, the colors, the UX or the user experience, the user interface is really important. It's crucial. It invites people to use your app. And having that graphic design component is really helpful in jobs as well, especially if you're like, for example, like a front end programmer, which you like design the interface of it. If you have a very good, like, I guess, toolbox of like colors and how to use them and how to attract an audience, that can also be helpful if any of you like are interested in the tech field and you want to mix some graphic design into it. So tech is also versatile, and graphic design and tech, they kind of interlink. I don't think there's any job where it's just like solely focused on it. Like you can have a lot of skill sets and use it in your own way to benefit your position or your company. So
Can I jump
Yeah.
in?
No problem.
Hi. So I'm an architect, and I never thought, I needed graphic design. And I actually took a course on the side on my own at George Brown, and I did graphic design as a certificate. And the only reason I got my first job as an interior designer at a firm was because I had that on as a benefit in my resume, because they needed someone to do their marketing. So I was like, yeah, I'll jump on and do the graphics and marketing stuff for you. And I never really like thought, okay, I'm going to use this, but it got me my first job. And it's also opened so many doors now that I'm in teaching, because I can help Miss Wilson with, their yearbook. I can help with this. I can help with that. I can jump on that. So it's something that, yes, you need to keep in the back pocket, because you never know really when you're going to use it. And when it comes, you need to stand out. Why not have that tool in your back pocket?
So I'm almost done, I guess. I made this very simple, like it's just coming off the top of my head. Obviously, it's not the best, and I still have a lot to learn as well. So we'll see how that goes during my graphic design journey. But I just created a quick poster, really quick. There's a ton of blank spaces you can see here, over here, over here. But I think overall the colors match well, thanks to my Canva color selection. There aren't too many elements. You can easily tell it's a graphic design because of the computer. The length is just there to add a more homey effect, as well as the coffee. I couldn't find a better coffee. I wanted to find something more subtle. And I think that's one of the downsides to Canva, like Ms. Wilson said. There isn't, like, it's very, you can tell when it's Canva. And so I haven't learned Photoshop yet, so I would love to learn. But I think like this is pretty good for 10 minutes. I made a few others last night. Like there was this one that I made last night just because I was bored. But there's this one. Again, it's not the best. I probably spent 10 minutes on this too. Like, but you can tell like the colors match well. You can tell like, oh, there's like these scrap pieces of paper. And I guess like, to me at least, the elements match well. But maybe when I'm older, I'll see, oh, these don't match well together at all. So I guess it's just how you perceive it at the moment. And then there's just this one more. This was, I was making this at school. I was, again, bored. But like, I wanted to try something very like geometrical, I guess. But yeah, I didn't finish it. I got bored after that. But you can see that there's like many different ways you can explore with different elements, different colors. You just need to explore. Don't be afraid to look at the different options, different elements you have, and explore with the colors. And like Ms. Wilson said, just start, because you'll probably end up figuring out what you want to do like 2 minutes after